Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to violence.
I'm Alma Lingua, bringing you the video you've all been waiting for. Filmed in glorious black and blue, Russ Meyer's ode to violence in women. The film declared by John Waters to be not only the greatest film ever made, but the greatest film that will ever be made. I'm talking about 1965's Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill.
While living fast, and if you want to end up giving your all, let me call. Pussycat is living reckless, Pussycat is right by. If you think that you can tame her, well, just you try. She will let on you, and she'll take just what she wants as she goes along. You belong to Pussycat, she's living.
Go, baby, go! Go, go, go! Go! Go, work it on now. Don't you say go there. Go, baby, go! Well, come on, let's go! Go, baby! Well, please go! Go! Hurry, let's go! Let's go now! Harder, faster!
Russ Meyer knows how to open a movie, doesn't he? That opening sequence really kicks this baby off in high gear. Great theme song by the Boss Swedes. According to Russ, they were an Oakland, California band. In his interview with John Waters, Russ said, "You know how sometimes a group will sit in a bar and they'll never go any further? That was them." Later covered by The Cramps on their Smell of Female album, a title which itself is a reference to this movie. A Faster Pussycat, Cramps frontman Lux Interior said, "That movie is so great. It kind of stands for anything the Cramps stand for. And one thing I really miss from drive-in movies in the 60s? We don't get enough villains laughing evilly anymore." Anyway, back to the flick. Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill is the inspirational story of a bad girl gang of go-go dancers who are out for a good time, racing their Porsches out on the desert, led by voluptuous, volatile Varla. Along for the ride is Varla's girlfriend Rosie,
Easy, baby, you're almost a fire hazard.
and vivacious, voracious blonde Billy.
Here, Rosie, baby. Pop the top before you blow your own.
Things get out of hand when a sickeningly squeaky clean couple stumble upon the Pussycats, Dorkmeister General Tommy, who probably needed to die just for that outfit alone, and his obnoxiously perky girlfriend Linda. A friendly race then leads to kidnapping and murder. But just wait, when Varla discovers a warped family headed by a demented wheelchair-bound Stuart Lancaster up to some seriously disturbing doings out in the desert, she sets her sights on the stash of cash they got on their property.
What a hunk of stuff.
Hey, he's a big one, ain't he? Got muscles all the way to his ears. They call him the vegetable. He's kind of a nut. And his old man's a bigger one. Hey, there's the old man now. That's him. The old man, he's a crip. Railroad accident. Smashed him up real bad. Tried to save a girl. Kind of queered his mind, too, especially about women. Of course, they gave him a big hunk of money for a settlement. And don't know nobody know how much it was. Never had deposited. Like I say, he's a nut. Don't believe in banks. My guess is he hid out there in the desert someplace. Hates everybody, though. Hates everybody. Of course, with all that money, he can afford to. Don't nobody like him either. Why, he could leave town tomorrow and nobody'd even stir. It's kind of sad, though. All that money and nobody'd enjoy it.
Let's split, but don't follow too close.
Boy, listen to me. Fate threw us this package. Now all we gotta do is untie them pretty ribbons. And we know how to do that, don't we, boy? Yeah, all that land to hide them ribbons in when we're done with them.
The desert knows no mercy. Who will survive and what will be left of them? As you all know, Russ Meyer was a man who turned his obsession into cinematic art.
Now, these films, there's a certain theme in your movies, I'd say. You have an obsession with women's breasts. Is that fair?
I wouldn't say it's an obsession, but I care for them a great deal.
Faster Pussycat Kill Kill came to be because 1965's Motorcycle was a huge hit at drive-ins. I did a show on that one last May. Check it out if you haven't already. Meyer figured if people loved a movie about 3 tough psycho guys, a movie about 3 tough psycho girls would blow the doors off. Meyer's wife, pinup model turned producer Eve, told him she thought that was a terrible idea. Russ said, "I'm not listening to you." For the screenplay, Meyer enlisted the talents of Jack Moran, a former child actor who played Huckleberry Finn in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Since You Went Away, played a small part in Gone with the Wind, and appeared as Buddy in Buck Rogers. He was presently a down-on-his-luck alcoholic working as a liquor store clerk in a dusty desert town southeast of Riverside. He was also a committed chain smoker. As RN put it, Moran had one lung and refused to stop. Moran became acquainted with Meyer after he encountered one of Meyer's old World War II buddies in an overnight stay in jail for writing bad checks. Moran had previously penned Wild Gales of the Naked West for RM and only had 3 requirements up front for writing the new screenplay: Writers Guild minimum paid in cash, a cheap motel, and a bottle of booze.
Mr. Host, I'm of legal age for whiskey, voting, and loving. Now, the next election's 2 years away, and my love life ain't getting much better. So how about some of that good 100%?
4 days later, Moran emerged with a script titled The Leather Girls. Eve loathed the script and had to be persuaded into co-financing it, but Meyer plunged ahead. With Pussycat, Meyer reunited with Haji, his leading lady from Motorcycle, and Mudhoney's Stuart Lancaster, and a great bravura turn as the demented, wheelchair-bound old man.
Sound your warning. Send your message. Huff and puff and belch your smoke, and kill and maim and run off unpunished.
And for all my extra guys in the audience, Stuart is only 45 years old in this film. You're welcome for the confidence boost. Haji gets overlooked in this film a lot since her character is more of a straight man between volatile Varla and vivacious Billy, but she's great, and I love her Chico Marx accent.
Alright, you washed. Now I'm gonna spit it dry you.
I've talked all about her in my Motorcycle show. Everyone says Haji was always wonderful to work with. As Kirk, Meyer cast Voyage to the Bottom of the Seas Paul Trinka, allegedly afflicted with health food halitosis. Tura still couldn't stop telling everyone about his bad breath decades later. Bodybuilder turned highly successful advertising art director Dennis Busch as the Vegetable. Busch is also the only Meyer leading man John Waters personally found sexy, although I don't know what he's talking about with this guy on deck.
God damn.
Mickey Fox is the goofy gas station attendant, one of those kooky country characters Meyer loves so much, and Ray Barlow as the ill-fated Tommy. Tura did not have much use for most of her male co-stars on this picture, dismissing Barlow as a chicken shit, claiming he was whining that he was afraid that he was going to get hurt during their fight scene.
A safety first, Clyde.
Tura quipped, "Lucky I didn't break his goddamn neck." Soundman Richard Brummer, who knew karate, doubled for Barlow in a few shots. For the role of Billy, Meyer wanted a sexy girl next door blonde to contrast with the exotic raven-haired beauty of Tura and Haji. He found former Miss Pittsburgh Lori Williams through a cattle call audition, although he was initially hesitant to cast her because he thought she wasn't busty enough. He eventually decided that that wasn't a problem a good push-up bra couldn't solve. Lori was 19 years old when she starred in Pussycat. She was a pretty clean-cut kid, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, and she had gotten her start as a dancer in Elvis flicks like Viva Las Vegas and Kissing Cousins, and beach party movies like It's a Bikini World and A Swingin' Summer. This was also in contrast to Tura and Haji, who were both single mothers and who had been burlesque dancing since their early teens. Of Meyer's reputation as a sex film director, Williams said, "It kind of scared me at the time because I was known for popcorn and fluff beach party movies. But it turned out to be one of the better experiences because Russ was such a professional. He was a good guy. He ran a tight ship." In the 70s, Williams' career moved into television guest starring roles, including a few episodes of Charlie's Angels. At age 32, at an audition for a bikini role, after overhearing, "Now the next one is Lori Williams. She's an oldie, but she's a goodie," Williams retired from acting for a career in casting.
See you in church, huh?
When interviewed in the 1990s, she was working as a realtor on the west side of Los Angeles. Faster Pussycat Kill Kill was shot in the Mojave Desert over 3 weeks. Tura recalled that on the first day of filming, it was 110 degrees in the shade, and her being in all black, she was sunburned after 3 hours of filming. It was a typical lean and mean RM production with his usual small but loyal crew, but there were a few problems. Filming the driving scenes was a challenge, and one particular challenge was Lori Williams didn't know how to drive, much less drive a stick shift, so she had to learn to drive on the set. But the biggest source of friction came from co-star Sue Bernard. Well, more accurately, Sue's mother, Brandy Bernard. George Costello, Russ's assistant director and right-hand man, stated, "There was a choice between Susan and another girl, and Meyer really regretted it because the mother was constantly nagging the whole way through." We would kind of laugh at her. Miss Satana was less amused. She bitterly recalled, "I was surprised her mother wasn't in the scenes with her. So demanding. My daughter is not getting enough dialogue. My daughter is not getting enough film time." RM's response, "You signed the contract, that's it." Tura described Sue Bernard as a Hollywood brat. Compared to Tura, Sue Bernard had had a relatively sheltered and privileged upbringing, primed for a career in show business as a model and an actress. Bernard's father was none other than Bruno Bernard, better known as glamour photographer to the stars, Bernard of Hollywood. Costello recalled that Brandy and daughter weren't exactly prepared for working on a low-budget Russ Meyer film. It was very primitive. No trailer, working out of all these cars. The mother thought it was going to be like MGM out there. She expected the daughter to get some sort of star treatment. Haji too recalled Sue Bernard as a whiner and claimed she had to calm Tura's flaring temper towards the teenage actress. Meyer was also displeased with what he felt were Bernard's lackluster acting responses and instructed Tura to provoke stronger emotional reactions out of her. Satana snarled, "You want a reaction, I'll get one." Tensions came to a head when during one day of filming, Brandy Bernard referred to the 3 leading actresses as a bunch of whores. In response, Tura threatened Meyer with the ultimatum, "She goes or I go." When Meyer didn't think she'd make good on her threat, Tura responded, "You want to bet? Watch my fucking dust." After that, I think Miss Brandy got a talking to about her behavior, and that was that. Although she wasn't a target of it, Tura's tempestuous temper and fights with the Bernards and with Meyer himself also intimidated Lori Williams on the set, who preferred to pal around with the more ethereal, laid-back Haji. Interviewed by Psychotronic magazine, Tura says, "I had a bad temper. Not anymore. I think I've mellowed out."
We had one real big row. After that, he didn't bother me anymore. He kept insisting that I do a certain bit a certain way, and I told him, no, I don't feel comfortable with it. So I kept arguing with him about not doing it, and finally he insisted that I do it, and I said no, and I lost my temper, and I turned around and hit a railroad tie wall and broke my hand.
Even though they enjoyed working with one another, Russ and Tura's relationship could turn into a tumultuous battle of wills on set.
Of course, she and I had a contest going all the time, who was the strongest. And she always felt she was the strongest, and I knew I was the strongest because I could edit the movie, file analysis, but I respected her. But we were always at swords points.
It was for Tura that Russ broke one of his key on-set rules.
One thing that helped a lot with Tura was that she made it clear, I had a law always that nobody could have, exchange wondrous body fluids during the course of the production. I want everyone to be needful and wanted badly, More importantly, I didn't want anyone to be tired or wake up angry because they didn't have an orgasm. That was the basic underlying reason by having this strict attitude about people being together.
Did you follow that rule yourself?
No, wait a minute. Up to a point. Up to a picture, I should say. But let me just tell you about Tura. She kind of started it all. She says, I know you got a thing about not having people get together. She says, I need it, and I need it every night. And I knew she had me by the balls because I couldn't very well discharge her. I said, well, who you got in mind? She's like, the assistant cameraman. He looks strong.
Of his legendary leading lady, Russ Meyer said, she knew how to handle herself. Don't fuck with her, and if you have to fuck her, do it well. She might turn on you. But personality conflicts and low-budget limitations aside, the cast and crew recall Pussycat being a pleasant shoot, and the lead actresses ended up really enjoying the primitive desert setting. During downtime, Tura would let a very contented tarantula crawl up her arm and into her hair. While Faster Pussycat is now beloved by cult film fans all over the world, upon release it flopped at the box office and was reviled by critics.
But they don't know anything, you know? They're a bunch of jerks.
Why don't people appreciate nice things? I just don't think it was what the audience at the time was wanting from Russ Meyer. At the time, Russ Meyer's name was equated with softcore porn, which is really funny to me because even though his movies are about sexuality, they're really either satirical comedies or melodramas. But the primary audience for Meyer's film back then were blue-collar men who wanted to see gorgeous, buxom fantasy women. Like Motorcycle, Pussycat was another attempt by Russ to break out of solely directing nudies and making films that still featured his trademark obsessions, but could be viewed by a wider drive-in audience. But where it hadn't really bothered them so much in Motorcycle, his fans at the time were incensed by the lack of nudity in Pussycat, or as Meyer put it, their complaint was, "Why didn't you show Tura's big tits naked?" Meyer opted to shoot Pussycat in black and white for purely financial reasons, but by the time Pussycat was released, black and white was considered antiquated for a genre film.
It's black and white. Of course it's black and white. What do you expect for $50? Fucking 3D, for Christ's sake? Well, how much is color? We want color.
Critics and audience alike disliked the violence in the film. It's funny because it plays very differently today. I think with the black and white photography and the stylized dialogue and performances, that the film seems much further removed from reality, and like it takes place in its own alternate film reality. Its crueler, more violent moments play more like fun, pulpy melodrama. But I think for audiences at the time, the violence in Pussycat was much more visceral and brutal than the more popular Motorcycle, especially Varla beating Tommy the Goofus to death in a basically unprovoked attack with her bare hands, complete with that sickening neck crack on the soundtrack.
Flat and stiff in his heap. He's had a bad accident.
Great sound work by Richard Brummer, by the way. He used a cracking almond to achieve that effect. That sound effect had to be removed from prints in Sweden. Compared to Pussycat, Motorcycle has a more straightforward narrative. Protagonist is wronged by the gang of punks, goes on a quest for revenge, teams up with Haji, who's also been wronged by the gang. Protagonist whooped the gang's nasty asses, the end. The audience knows who to root for, it's cathartic, and it's satisfying. But I think audiences at the time, they didn't know what to make of Pussycat, since the three women are the main antagonists, other than the depraved old man. But at the same time, you get the sense that Russ is more on their side than our alleged heroes, who are just so cluelessly, obnoxiously, hopelessly dorky. Who doesn't want to see them get beaten to death? Varla is shockingly amoral and ruthless, a Molotov cocktail and voluptuous vixen form who erupts into violence with little provocation.
All right, here's how it works. Everybody's got to go. This way we're all safe, and we can all go back to our gigs. This'll be just another deserted ranch house.
She's not unlike Ramrod in Vice Squad or Frank Booth in Blue Velvet, except she's 2 decades earlier, and she's a woman with giant boobs.
Oh, you're cute. Like a velvet glove cast in iron. And like the gas chamber, Varla, a real fun gal.
To recover financially, and as Russ eloquently put it, jerky productions up by its bra straps, Russ next made Mondo Topless, a striptease travelogue. It's a lot of close-up shots of strippers slapping their breasts together. It mostly just made me laugh, but your mileage may vary.
You've got a weird sense of humor.
Try again, I get funnier.
Thanks to home video, and no doubt thanks to John Waters praising it to the heavens and his memoir shock value as his favorite film of all time, Pussycat developed a cult following and was a hit during its theatrical re-release in the 90s. To show the far-reaching cult appeal of Faster Pussycat, I first found about it because my 7th grade science teacher recommended to me, knowing that I loved cult movies. With a change in time, a change in sensibilities, and a home video allowing a new and broader audience to access it, Pussycat hit its stride. Now people wanted to see beautiful, bodaciously buxom women beating guys to death. Girl power rules.
They let them vote, smoke, and drive, even put them in pants. So what do you get? A Democrat for president.
Another difference is that while the 1965 audience would have been predominantly male, Faster Pussycat is also very popular with female film cult fans. Shout out to all my fellow Russ Meyer film fans in the audience. Love you ladies. But even friends of mine that aren't normally as interested in other Russ Meyer films, they love Faster Pussycat.
Probably this is the second most successful film I've made, largely because women like it. It stars a lady, incredible lady, Tura Satana.
It's fortunate that Pussycat found a second life after its release because there's so much to recommend it. I think of the films that Meyer had made up to that point, it's some of his best filmmaking. You can even see a big evolution in terms of style, from Motor Psycho to Faster Pussycat, more of the composition and editing style that he would continue using throughout his career. Both Meyer's shot composition, staccato editing, and use of wall-to-wall music also remind me of George Romero's earlier work, style that emerged from using budgetary limitations in a unique and creative way. The big recurring flaw in a lot of low-budget and regional genre films of the 60s and 70s, usually the people making them just aren't often good technical filmmakers. There's a lot of basic, uninteresting shot compositions and lingering static shots which drag to an Antonioni on ambient pace. Romero and Meyer, on the other hand, both use more dynamic compositions, a staccato editing style, and wall-to-wall music to create momentum. Staccato editing also serves the purpose to create movement without moving the camera. Tura remarked that Russ's camera was completely stationary on Faster Pussycat. Dollies and tracking shots, additional camera setups take more time, which then means more money. The staccato editing style of Meyer and Romero's earlier work gives the films a kinetic energy and a momentum on a limited budget. A big influence on the evolution of Meyer's style was sound man Richard Brummer. Brummer told Meyer he thought the film could be better paced if they could overlap the dialogue, going through the picture and marking bits of shots that could be lost if dialogue overlapped onto the next one. So at the end of a character's line, the picture then cuts to the actor delivering the next line of dialogue, which then speeds up the pace of the film considerably.
You girls a bunch of nudists, or you just short of clothes?
Meyer, who on his previous films had cut picture and sound simultaneously on a one-track moviola, purchased a two-track moviola to accommodate sound editing. It was also Brummer that, inspired by the current release of What's New Pussycat, concocted the title Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill. Though audience complained about it at the time, I love Pussycat's crisp black and white photography. It gives the picture a beautiful pulp noir starkness. The desert setting seems even more primitive and unrelenting, and allows Varla's signature look to achieve even more of a dramatic impact. And it boasts a fantastic script by Jack Moran. In my opinion, Moran's the best writer that Meyer ever worked with. He had a real knack for dialogue. Jack Moran writes dialogue that sounds like it was ripped from the pages of a dime store pulp version of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and coming from me, that is the highest compliment possible. And I adore Pussycat's acerbic dialogue laced with beatnik slang.
All right already, I'm hip.
George Costello said that flair came naturally to Moran because he was a guy who spoke in one-liners.
What you need now is a playmate. I may not be much in the muscle department, but I got a few things going for me too, you know. What you need is a manager. Yeah. 10% of your action be enough for anyone. I never took no course in anatomy, but from what I can see, you got 2 of everything and some left over. I don't know what you're training for, but as far as I'm concerned, you're ready. Look, me Jane, you Tarzan. Now why don't you drop that tree you're holding and let's grab a line and swing a little.
He would collaborate with Russ again on Common Law Cabin and Good Morning and Goodbye, but I always wish he had written more stuff. Jack Moran's the kind of guy who seemed like if he wasn't writing screenplays, he'd be writing pulp crime novels. Same cynical dark humor bordering on misanthropic nihilism sensibility with larger-than-life characters and snappy dialogue. Jack Moran sounds like the kind of guy who'd be going to AA meetings with Jim Thompson, you know what I mean?
Les pas faits de bourgeois, soi-disant fait à l'image du bon Dieu. Si c'était vrai, j'aimerais pas le rencontrer par une nuit sans lune, celui-là.
But one of the biggest reasons Pussycat has endured with fans all these years later is Tura Satana as Varla. The role of Varla fits Tura like a black leather glove. This is one of those roles that I really don't think any other actress could have played.
The idea of Tura Satana was there was one girl that could play the role. I mean, it was tailor-made. I mean, she had this monumental figure. She was Oriental, and she knew karate. And you couldn't double this girl. Who were you going to get to double her?
Tura, of course, started out as a burlesque dancer. She befriended co-star Haji while both were dancing at the Losers. Some sources say it was through Haji's recommendation that Meyer contacted Tura's agent to audition for the part. Before Pussycat, she had a small part as Chinese prostitute Suzette Wong in Irma La Douce, and an uncredited role as a stripper in Who's Been Sleeping in My Bed. She also made walk-on appearances on Burke's Law and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. While working on Irma La Douce, Tura received a call about auditioning for Russ. Much like Lori Williams, she was initially reluctant because of Russ's reputation as a softcore porn director, but her agent assured her that there was no nudity required. She came to audition wearing her wedding outfit from Irma La Douce. When Russ Meyer asked her how she would play the part of Varla, Tura answered, "I make her kind of feminine, but a bitch on wheels." After reading for him, Meyer proclaimed, "You're definitely Varla." Tura also had the added benefit of being proficient in Hapkido, karate, and judo, having studied martial arts since she was a child. Tura was instrumental in creating Varla's iconic style. The costume, the hair, the makeup is all Satana. And as fabulous as Jack Moran's dialogue is, it was Tura who came up with this delicious line.
"You won't find it down there, Columbus."
Tura Satana was so integral to the creation of the character and her performance so key to the film's later success, Russ remarked, "She and I made that movie." Tura brings such fire and intense presence to the role of Varla that Varla becomes a force of nature, as dark, dangerous, and bracing as a hurricane, further emphasized by Meyer's low-angle shots that make her appear supernaturally overpowering.
I don't believe it.
You'd better believe it.
While the original male audience was put off by the Pussycats, the men in the cult audience that followed shared Russ's view of Varla and her Go-Go Girl gang. As Immortal Drive-In critic Joe Bob Briggs eloquently put it, "You don't know whether these women want to have sex with you or kill you, and you don't care." For men who love fantasy bad girls, Varla's got plenty of appeal. I think it touches a primal male instinct, exhilarated by her wildness, but also the thrill that maybe the right man can tame it.
More stallion than mare. It's too much for one man to handle. And again, you never can tell. She might just gentle down real nice with the right halter.
But the character is also why Faster Pussycat resonates so much with female fans. Tura Satana's Varla is pure, unleashed female rage, a glamorous, ass-kicking feminine id. I think for women who have to suppress their anger so much of the time in order to function in society, which is unfortunately too packed with assholes.
Some people are okay, but mostly I just feel like poisoning everybody.
And because of stupid laws, you unfortunately can't go knocking out condescending douchebags and overgrown mean girls with a chair like in women's wrestling. Modern life can be a frustrating puzzle of trying to navigate passive-aggressive machinations, but Varla's refreshing because even though she takes it to psychotic extremes, Varla is not someone to push around. And she's unbelievably gorgeous. She's got style. She's that bad girl side of herself that you want to embrace, but you're just a little bit afraid of. And I love the way she yells her lines. I adore Varla, and in my dreams, I am Varla. Varla is that dark side of me that has a bad temper that wants to go around karate chopping wussies. And I did say this to the last asshole who pissed me off.
The point is of no return, and you've reached it.
For Tura 2, playing Varla was extremely cathartic.
He allowed us to make our characters us. I pulled a lot of the anger from when I was younger. I pulled that out and made it into Varla.
Tura's story is wild and colorful as anything in a Russ Meyer movie. Sources differ on some of the key dates and places, and I mean, it can be hard to tell where the facts end and where exaggeration begins, because Tura was an expert at cultivating her own legend. And hey, I don't blame her, she's an entertainer, it's part of the package. But, as the man who shot Liberty Valance taught us, if given the choice between the truth and the legend, print the legend. And the legend begins with the birth of Tura Luna Pasquale Yamaguchi in Hapkido, Japan.
I was about 2 years old when my mom and dad moved to the United States. My mom and dad met here first of all, because my dad worked in silent movies and my mother was a circus performer. My father's the Japanese part. My mother's American Indian and Scotch-Irish. My father used to own property in California. That used to be his orchard ranch. And when the war broke out, the government confiscated it and I think paid him 10 cents on the dollar for it. And he wound up with me and my brother in the camps. We were relocated to Manzanar. They separated us because my mother was American and American Indian on top of it. They couldn't put her in there with us. And from Manzanar, after about 2 years, 3 years there, we were relocated to Chicago. I was raised in an Italian, Jewish, black neighborhood. I never got to school without having a fight, and I never came back from school without having a fight. I didn't fight back. Finally, my father told me that I had to, so after I broke their leader's arm, they didn't bother me anymore.
With American hostility towards the Japanese following the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the violence and poverty of the neighborhood, Tura learned early that she was in a hostile world where she was going to have to fight hard to survive. On top of that, she carried the stress of going through an early puberty, already well developed at age 9. While she recalls her father as loving, her mother resented the children, having given up her show business career for motherhood. While walking to the neighborhood bakery on an errand for her mother, a car full of young men approached her under the guise of asking for directions, kidnapped her, and sexually assaulted her before abandoning the girl in an alley to crawl home with her injuries. Tura observed, Varla was born on the west side of Chicago. It was this trauma that spurred Tura's lifelong interest in martial arts.
After I was raped by 5 guys is when I really got into it. I was put in reform school by the judge because he says I tempted these 5 guys into raping me at 9. I was just such a bad girl.
According to Tura, local corruption allowed her attackers to go unpunished, while she was blamed for her own assault and sent to reform school. The 9-year-old girl left to cope with her trauma completely alone. To protect herself, she and a group of neighborhood girls formed a Savage Street-style girl gang, complete with matching jackets and ponytails. Her parents arranged a marriage for her to 17-year-old Tura Satana when she was 13 years old. The marriage fell apart and Tura returned to Chicago 9 months later, but the surname would serve her well in her entertainment career. Struggling to finish high school while being bounced back and forth to reform school, Tura was a gifted singer with a 4-octave range and aspired to become an opera singer. Alas, it was not to be. With a fake ID, she found work as a cigarette girl in Los Angeles, doing occasional work as a blues singer, but through the chance occurrence of a dancer calling out sick, Tura was plunged into a career as a burlesque dancer. She was only 15 years old. Tura danced in clubs all over the U.S., Los Angeles, Chicago, Calumet City, New Orleans, Las Vegas, Biloxi, and Hawaii. In her first act, she performed as Galatea, the statue that came to life, and later, Miss Japan Beautiful. It's too bad there's not any footage of her burlesque performances, because people who saw her said she was a sensational, electrifying performer. Hairdresser Peter Young said, "It was something else. Even the waitresses would stop serving to look. She was so glamorous. A star."
Was that like one of your specialties, was spinning tassels?
When I was a dancer, yeah.
Did you spin them in opposite directions?
Yes, and one at a time, and I used to lay flat on my back and spin one at a time, stop it, and change directions.
Woo! Man, they don't do that anymore.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
She was also a 3D nude photography model for silent film star Harold Lloyd, who Tura said gave her the confidence and encouragement to pursue acting, although she said he would have had a heart attack if he had known her age. After her second marriage to a jockey ended when her husband was trampled in a fall, Tura struggled with binge drinking, but credited her fellow dancers and her burlesque career for getting her off the bottle. She detailed her struggle in a 1957 article for Cabaret magazine called How a G-String Saved Me from Gin. People who knew her well said despite Tura's tough girl exterior, she was very sensitive underneath it all and even wrote poetry. "Oh, I'm a pussycat," Tura would insist to interviewers who were gushing over what a badass she was. Tura was extremely devoted to her friends and family, but she was also a loner. Peter Young remarked that she didn't have a lot of female friends, and the other dancers were extremely jealous of her. Haji remarked that a lot of the girls were afraid of Tura, and said nobody would dare use her makeup or hairbrush. Haji wasn't intimidated though, and the two women were good friends. Erica Gavin, future star of Vixen, would also befriend Tura, but observed in all the time that she worked at the Losers, she never once saw Tura smile. Early scars festered into a struggle with anger. When I was younger, I had a very short fuse, Tura admitted. I'd lose my temper like that. I'd explode, and then people would clear out of my way. Later in life, developing a strong Christian faith helped her find some peace. When interviewed by Jimmy McDonough for the Russ Meyer biography, Big Bosoms and Square Jaws, Tura professed to be a staunch Republican and a devout Christian. Reuniting with her co-star from the 90s theatrical re-release of Pussycat, Lori Williams observed that Tura was much mellower and described her as spiritual.
I like men with big appetites, only I could never find one to match mine.
Honey, what you eat seems to settle in the right places. But then, you look to me like a gal with a big appetite for everything.
I try to think big.
And Tura always had a femme fatale mystique. In her heyday as a dancer, Tura had many flings with famous men. She allegedly had a passionate relationship with Elvis, who she said wanted to marry her, but she declined, feeling a marriage to a burlesque dancer would ruin his career. For years, she claimed her oldest daughter was fathered by Tony Bennett.
But I was just twitching, just like a spastic.
But following Tura's death, Ancestry.com revealed that the father was not Tony Bennett, but his opening act, comedian Marty Allen. Maybe she didn't want him to feel left out. But despite her wild and colorful love life, she had a very old-fashioned traditional side. I love being female and being catered to, she said. I enjoy men opening doors for me. Tura's daughters loved her deeply, but also noted that Tura, being a very independent person who was just going to do what she wanted to do, she could neglect her children. Being someone who was really hurled headfirst into adulthood and had to grow up fast without the normal emotional maturation process that takes place with adult guidance and support, it must have been really difficult for her to be a mother. She led a wild, exciting life, but retiring from show business in the early 70s, she worked as a police dispatcher and then later worked as a nurse for 12 years. She joked, "My patients don't give me any trouble." Her third marriage to a police officer lasted 19 years, ending after his death during open heart surgery. Tura was dealt 2 major blows to her health. She claimed she was shot by a junkie former patient who returned to the hospital to seek revenge on the doctor for reporting him to the police. In 1981, her car was hit by an uninsured, unlicensed driver going 60 miles in a 20-mile-an-hour zone. The accident broke her back and resulted in 2 years in the hospital and multiple surgeries. While the doctors initially thought Tura might not ever be able to walk again, she said, "Watch my dusts." Their at times and tempestuous onset relationship is interesting because there are a lot of similarities between Russ and Tura. Both were very individualistic and lived unconventional, colorful lives. They both had conservative, old-fashioned sides, while also being free-spirited and sharing an outrageous sense of humor. They were both undeniably unique. Pussycat has been reevaluated as a feminist film. Tura said of the film, "It showed women could be beautiful and kick butt." Others have argued that Meyer's intent wasn't to make a feminist film, it's just more of a male fantasy.
Well, the women are always the most driving force in my films. I like it. Again, it's my thing. I like aggressive women.
There's much academic debate, mostly of the annoying variety, about whether Meyer was a feminist or a chauvinist. In these times of cramming people into rigid boxes, they forget people can be multifaceted and hard to define. Then there's the academic theory that it doesn't matter what the filmmaker's intentions are because the audience is the true author of the picture. You know who would love to believe that? People who don't create or produce anything!
I'm nothing but a parasite.
I'd go on a rant, but I think this sums up how I feel about that theory.
Otis, plug it in.
I think the subtext of Pussycat is a testament to the sexual power of women. In Meyer's world, women are the ones in charge because men are powerless in their presence, captive by their desire for these beautiful, indomitable forces of nature.
Because you're a beautiful animal.
And I'm weak. And I want you.
In Russ's world, they're either clueless and passive buffoons or resentfully sadistic. Raymond Delacroix, after working with Russ on Up, quipped, he has no clue what to do with these breasts he's so fascinated with. None at all. From people who knew him and worked with him, they harbored opinions of all extremes about what Meyer thought about the opposite sex. He loved women, he had contempt for women, he objectified women, he idealized women. Tura had a much warmer opinion of RM. I think Russ loved women. He always put women on a pedestal. Even though he exploited the figure part of them, their sexuality, he still adored women. You could tell that from the way he always talked about his mom.
We stayed friends for all these years, even though that was the only film I ever did with him. And I would say that he helped me also realize my own true worth.
Join me next time for The Forbidden Desires of Edwidge Fenwick. It's one of my favorite giallos for June, The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. But until next time, stay sick.